I was with a group of brothers last week talking about the end of Roe v. Wade, and one was telling me that he was very nervous about the upcoming family reunion because he's got members of his family, like all of us do, who are very, very upset, angry, furiously angry about the end of Roe, and would probably sympathize with all of the demonstrations, all of the violence being given out toward pregnancy help organizations around the country, and just very, very upset. And when you go to a family reunion, you're not looking for a fight. You're looking to build relationships and to show love. And so it's a question that all of us who are rejoicing over the end of Roe are wrestling with as we engage with family and friends who have a very, very different position and attitude. If you've read the Dobbs decision, they actually crystallize what we're all facing very well in the opening paragraph. Let me read it to you. It says, abortion presents a profound moral issue on which Americans hold sharply conflicting views. Some believe fervently that a human person comes into being at conception, and that abortion ends an innocent life. Others feel just as strongly that any regulation of abortion invades a woman's right to control her own body and prevents women from achieving full equality. I say that's a pretty honest, accurate description of both sides of the debate. And the end of Roe has unleashed a great deal of anger. There's no doubt about it. And so if you're older and you're more mature, you kind of understand what you believe and why you believe it. And your point of interest really is, how do you engage people in a winsome, careful, reasoned approach rather than just feeding into all the anger. If you're a younger adult, your views may not be so firm and clear. Your confidence is not that high. I would say if you're in the 15 to 25 year age, or you have children in this age, or grandchildren even in this age, it is a legitimate concern as to how all of this animosity toward the pro-life position is going to affect our young people. After all, they've been raised in a time and culture, mostly through social media, in which approval is the goal. Gaining likes, being approved by others is the way they've been nurtured. And the Christian faith requires them at a certain point to drive a stake in the ground and say, here I stand, and to be contrarian to their friends and culture. They've got to learn not to fear man and to fear God instead. So I think that they're particularly vulnerable now because all of this animosity is going to draw them closer to wanting to identify with their friends. And if their roots are not deep and clear, if their reasons for why they're pro-life are not clear, I think they can be swept away. So my number one response to the end of Roe is an urgent appeal for everybody, young and old, to really take this season of their life to learn how to make the case for life in a secular culture and learn how to speak the truth in love. Those two things go very well together. If you have truth, but you don't have love, then it's sort of like a hard rain. It comes down, but it rolls right off. If you have truth working with love, it's like a soft rain. It has a chance for the rain to come in and soak in and have its good effect. And I think that's how truth and love work together. If you have love without truth, you have a lot of warmth, but you don't have any strength. You don't have any skeleton. You don't have any structure. You're easily swayed by the crowd. Your fear of man is what is really the Lord of your life. So we need truth working with love to work together. And there are a couple of things in the Bible that actually can encourage us as we engage people over the abortion situation. Here's one word from the book of Proverbs, Proverbs 25:15. Through patience, a ruler can be persuaded, and a gentle tongue can break a bone. A gentle tongue can break a bone. What it's saying is that there's enormous power in politeness as well as speaking the truth. So look at the combination that we have here. We have patience and politeness, gentleness, as we engage with people who are powerful and strong in their views, as any ruler would be. And yet it says that we can persuade them. We can change their mind with gentleness, truth, politeness, patience. These are extremely powerful tools. I would say that all the rules of engagement on abortion can be summed up in 5 words. Speak the truth in love. That was Paul's advice to us as we go through life. Speak the truth in love, and they work well together. I came up with my 10 rules of engagement then last week as I was trying to think through how to help my friend who is about to meet with his family. And here they are. Number 1, I don't engage on social media. If you're on Twitter, Facebook, even an email, I never engage in anything seriously through these kinds of platforms. To me, they are like they are the communication of what hit and run driving is to transportation. You can say something, it's a hit, but it doesn't actually persuade. You can't see the tone. You can't hear the tone of voice. You can't see their demeanor. They're just the worst forms of communication. I just don't believe that they can ever prove to be persuasive. So my number 1 rule would be to use those tools to say, I look forward to when we can meet in person. And if you can't meet someone in person, where your eye contact, your tone of voice, your body language, even your tears can come and help you explain what you believe and why you believe it, then just don't engage. It's not the right time. Just say to them, when we see each other, I look forward to having a discussion with you about these very serious matters. But don't use social media for that engagement. Number 2, I like to prepare for those kinds of engagements. I think all of us need to take 15 minutes to really read through how to make the case for life in a secular culture so that you learn how to use science to make the case that the unborn is a human being, and to use the philosophy of equal rights to argue that if they are human, they deserve equal rights and equal protection. So that if you believe in the idea of equal rights for all human beings, then you are forced by the logic and the power of that reasoning to extend them to the unborn if they're human. So everything comes down to the question of what is the unborn? Is it human? So Scott Klusendorf is probably America's best teacher in pro-life apologetics. And we partnered up several years ago to write this little book called Stand for Life. And it was really designed for high school and college students. I really think that this book, the time for this book is now. So that if you have $4 that you're ready to invest in preparing yourself to know how to engage others, this is probably a really good investment, Stand for Life. But I'm not just trying to sell the book. The same information can be had free of charge. And there are 2 resources that we have available at the Passion Life website. One of them is the one that I've written, and it's simply called The 4 Questions. You can download it for free at passionlife.org. And it basically reduces the entire biblical ethic down to 4 questions to say, starting with the Bible, how does God's word inform and shape my thinking on this issue? And if you can answer these 4 questions, you'll be about 95% of the way there. in terms of starting with the Bible and letting it shape your opinions. The 4 questions are: what does the Bible say about human life, including life in the womb? Number 2, what does the Bible say about the shedding of innocent blood, including abortion? Number 3, how can we bring the grace of the gospel to the guilt and the grief of abortion so that people are experiencing God's forgiveness, having their conscience cleansed, and joining us in the great work of the gospel as we move forward? And number 4, what has God called us to do to stop the shedding of innocent blood? And what examples do we have, both in the Bible and throughout history and today, so that we can follow them, going all the way back to the midwives of Egypt and how they rescued the baby boys from being slaughtered? But when you move from the Bible to the culture, you need to know how to engage people that don't see the Bible and respect the Bible in the same way that you do. And that's why I really want to promote Scott Klusendorf's little article here called Only One Issue: Making the Case for Life in a Secular Culture. We've got this reduced down to a few pages, and you can literally take 15 minutes to kind of prepare yourself for when you're talking to people who don't share your Christian worldview, how to engage them on the issue of abortion using science and moral reasoning. You can download these for free. You can study them. 15 minutes each will probably give you a good start as you prepare for those kind of special one-on-one serious discussions about abortion. Number 3, I never allow myself to go above 98.6 when I'm having a discussion with somebody. It just seems to me that the hotter I grow, the louder my voice becomes, the higher their walls go up and the more defensive they become. So what's the point? Staying calm, returning a gentle, calm answer to those who are very emotionally upset and angry and shouting really is a way to break that down. So maintaining some confidence that you are right allows you to be patient, allows you to stay calm, because the truth will out. It's its own power. So I don't need to get angry at all. It doesn't work effectively. Number 4, for engaging on abortion. I ask more questions at the beginning, and I make more statements later on in the conversation. I think if you made a 3-to-1 rule or a 5-to-1 rule, you'd do very well. Ask 3 questions or 5 questions for every statement that you make. In other words, at the beginning of the conversation, you're really showing a genuine interest in trying to understand the other person's position. And you're also using questions to help them identify the issues that matter to you. In other words, asking the question, what is the unborn, is a key question. And ultimately, you're going to be persuaded to be pro-choice if it can be shown to you in a persuasive way that the unborn is not a human being. If the unborn is not a human being, then abortion can be no different than getting your hair cut. It really is a matter of choice at that point. And we're glad to embrace it. But they have to prove to you that the unborn is not human, rather than just assume that the unborn is not human, like they do when they suggest it's a matter of privacy. And of course, you would ask them a question about that. Would it be okay for you to kill a 2-year-old as long as you do it in the privacy of your home? And so, of course not. Well, why not? Well, it's human. So the question is, if the unborn is also human like the 2-year-old, then it would be morally unjust to allow it to be killed, even if it's done in the privacy of your home. This is the logic that we're trying to bring to our situation, our case. Number 5, use testimony. My own belief is that the testimonies of women or couples who stood up publicly and with tears in their eyes and have said, I have come to regret my abortion decision, and here's why, are one of the most significant and powerful forces in the pro-life movement. They break the lie that abortion is good for women. It destroys the human spirit. It destroys the impulse to protect and to nurture life, both as men and women, as mothers and as fathers. And I believe that the I regret my abortion testimony should always be a part of every conversation of abortion. Because for most people, they frame it as a choice between the life of the child and the life of the mother. And what we want to do is show that no, they are joined by an umbilical cord that's not just physical, but it's emotional, it's psychological, it's spiritual. In every way, when we abort our babies, we destroy ourselves. So that's part of what is broken down through the I regret my abortion testimony. So use your own testimony if that is part of your life experience, or bring to that conversation the stories of others, brief stories, and say, here's a story. What do you learn from this story? How does this woman's experience after abortion impact your view of abortion before people go down that road? Number 6, listen carefully to people as they make their case. They almost will always express some point of ambivalence. They'll say, I would never have an abortion personally, but I don't want to tell other people how to live. Well, actually, they are doing that all the time. That's why they're demonstrating right now. That's why they're advocating. So it may not be actually true. They're glad to tell people how to live, meaning support legal abortion. But what they really mean by that is, I see there's something about abortion that is personally upsetting to me, but I don't want to try to impose that on other people. And the reality is that whatever it is that's personally upsetting for them makes it wrong for everybody. There's only one reason that abortion can be personally upsetting, and that is that it's wrong to intentionally kill an innocent human being. Nobody is personally upset about having their appendix out. Well, I would never want to do it personally, but I wouldn't want to tell other people what to do. No, there's no issue there. If you need to have your appendix taken out, take it out. Doesn't matter. Same with haircut, fingernails, whatever. So when people say that, they are really betraying their true heart values at that moment. They're showing you that they do acknowledge that there's a reason abortion ought to be wrong, not just sad. One lady said to me on the phone one day, she said, abortion makes me sad, but I could never tell people that it's wrong to do. I said, well, if you ask yourself, what is it about abortion that's sad, you'll also see that it's the same reason that it makes it wrong. So that's the voice of ambivalence that I think you should listen to when you talk to people. Number 7, state your case simply. This is another insight that I gained from Scott Klusendorf. He says that the pro-life position can be stated as a simple syllogism. Proposition number 1, it is morally wrong to intentionally kill an innocent human being. Proposition number 2, abortion intentionally kills an innocent human being. Proposition number 3, therefore, abortion is wrong. That's the pro-life argument. Now, people will say, but it doesn't intentionally kill an innocent human being. The unborn is not human, but that's the case that needs to be made. They don't get to assume that it's not human. They have to show you that it's not human if they're going to persuade you. On the other hand, stating it that way helps them see what your view is in its simplest, clearest form. So leave them with that syllogism wherever it's possible, and you will have communicated why you're pro-life to your friends and family. Number 8, let the unborn child speak for itself. I think using a fetal model or pictures or something like that is very helpful because it drives us back to the question, Is this a human being? Well, here's a fetal model of a 12-week-old baby. Here's another one, a picture of an 8-week-old baby in utero. You can see hands and feet and heads and arms and the heart beating, and really go back to the science and let the unborn speak up in defense of its own life. And you can bring that forward in the conversation, focusing them on what is the unborn. Number 9. Show that your pro-life convictions actually produce good fruit. I think it's true, easy for us to admit that the end of abortion does mean that women or couples will be in crisis and they'll need some practical help. Now, if we never help them, it doesn't justify killing people. It never justifies killing people. But there is a consistency that we want to have, and that is, yes, we want to help women in crisis, couples in crisis, find a solution in which there's room in this world for them and their baby both to live and to flourish. At the same time, we're admitting that abortion does solve problems. It does solve poverty issues. It does solve hardships. But the reality is that you can solve all poverty issues and all hardships if you're willing to kill enough people. So that's the fundamental reality. Do we want to solve problems by killing people? Or do we want to adopt more of the Christian worldview that says, no, hardships, poverty, difficulties are opportunities for us to act as good Samaritans, to share, to relieve, to defend, to assist, to speak, to open our homes to people. I do believe that the 3,000 pregnancy help centers across this country are a strong testimony that by and large the pro-life community has made a commitment to help mothers and their babies after they're born find the resources, the place to live, the safety, the security, the basic resources that they need to make a go of it in life as they transition from a hard place to a better place. So I would say, if you're not invested in a local pregnancy center, get invested, get involved. If you haven't been involved with Passion Life, get involved. We're doing this all over the world, in China, Cuba, Vietnam, Colombia, all over the world. We're helping the church rescue women and couples. And you want to be a part of it. You want to be a part of the great work of pro-life missions. And the final rule of engagement that I bring out of my 10 rules is this. I always want to engage people with an eye to their eternal salvation. Abortion is wrong because every human being has intrinsic value. And every human being has eternal value as well. So I never want to talk to people merely to win that particular debate. Behind everything that I want to do is I want to woo people to understand the gospel and the offer of the gospel, to experience God's forgiveness, to be justified in God's grace, to be empowered by His Holy Spirit, to know what it is to be dead and now made alive, to be blind but now to be able to see. I want to bring people to know Him who is life and life eternal. And that affects my tone of voice and my attitude. A couple years ago, I took an abortionist out for lunch, and we spent 3 hours together. And of course, my goal was to help him rethink whether it would be better at this point in his life to go back to delivering babies rather than terminating them. But beyond that, my goal was to help him get a sense of what the gospel offers, that he can be forgiven, that no matter what he's done in his past, like no matter what you've done or what I've done in our past, we can come clean through Jesus Christ. And I wanted him to get to know me. I wanted him to be attracted to know who I am and why I think the way I do. I wanted him to understand how God had changed my life and changed my attitude about things. So my final rule of engagement is to always look at people not only as having intrinsic value, which is why I'm pro-life, but having eternal value, which means I always want to woo and win people to consider the offer of the gospel and the work of Jesus Christ in their life. So those are my 10 rules. You can replay this to go back over them. We hope to be sending them out in various ways. You can always check on Passion Life's website. We'll be posting them there. So as you start to engage over the summer and into the fall with your family and your friends, hopefully you'll remember this biblical word that a gentle answer really is powerful and effective in persuading, that you'll remember these 10 rules of engagement and go from there. Talk to you soon.